keys are held on my phone. And
But in your head as well?
no. Okay, so this is a good question, and let me talk about this, because I had prepared this, but it didn't really fit with my talk. So warning: one does not simply understand what Bitcoin is. There's this idea in the Bitcoin community where you come into it, and at first I thought, what is mining? Is it like untangling a knotted string or something? And the knot, I had no idea what it was. And I just asked questions, and gradually a picture began to emerge. But then it's like you get to this point, it's like, oh, I know nothing. I know nothing. But anyway, I can tell you about private keys and the security model of holding Bitcoin. The model is very simple. It's using massive, huge, gigantic numbers, like numbers that are on the same scale as the number of atoms in the universe. And each number is a key. And from each key, you can build a mailbox. So just imagine bajillions and bajillions and bajillions of mailboxes. And to check a mailbox requires a little bit of computational work. And you can do that. You can check mailboxes all day long, but because there's so many of them, only a small fraction of them contain Bitcoin. Even though a few of them have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, you'd be better off just mining than looking randomly through mailboxes. That's the security model. So a key is just a very large number, like 512 zeros and ones. And what we can do with some clever math is choose 12 words from a list of 2048. Like this: lizard, mix, baby, accessed, gadget, faucet, banana, hill, jaguar, axe, claw, coconut. And we can encode that into this private key. So this makes it very convenient. I have a friend who's memorized his 12 words, just keeps it in his head. He's deleted his app from his phone. You know, he's got 30 Bitcoin in his head. What I don't really like memorizing, I've put 3 online where I can access 3 of these words online, and I put 9 in two geographic locations that I can access. I've also told some trusted people where 9 are, and I have 3 in a dead man's switch, Google Inactive Account Manager, so that if I die and I won't log into Gmail for 3 months, those last 3 words will be sent to my heir, and he'll get all my Bitcoin, and no one will know, except for him. So that's about holding Bitcoin. There's lots of other technical details. Any other questions?
I just don't know what I don't know.
And that's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's a lot, apparently.
Yeah.
And we all do.
Yeah.
Me again. So the process of buying and selling.
Yeah.
There are exchanges, are there?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to buy something, how do you pass on is there like a public and a private key? Is that what's going on?
So
how do you pass on the information as to where you want the Bitcoin sent?
So this is an address which is derived from a public key.
Yeah.
That's the address, and it's represented in this QR code. And connected to that, there's actually, this is a special case because it starts with a 3. I know it's a multi-signature address, so it has at least 2 private keys that are required to spend from this address.
Do you set that up when you're setting up an account, or?
There's many different software tools that will allow you to create multi-signature Bitcoin addresses.
Is there one better than another? More safe?
For different uses.
We use Copay at Coinfest.
Yeah.
Copays by BitPay.
Copays by BitPay. All right.
I have a YouTube video about multi-signature addresses that goes into the technical details about it.
Sure.
Basically, here's the address, and then the owners of this address, hopefully they have their keys, because there's 0.77 Bitcoin at that address.
repositories are all over the world. So to effectively take out Coinfest's finances, you'd have to go to Chile, Africa, come get me, and go to Manchester, and it would be very difficult to do that.
But not impossible.
No, of course not. Not impossible.
Yeah.
So what if you hadn't set up that dead man switch and you do just die? What happens to you?
It's very analogous to if the situation had you buried gold and died without telling anyone where gold is. It's just gone.
There's no map.
And it,
So is it gone, or is it still in the network that someone could remine it?
well, it's still on the ledger, and everyone can see that it's on the ledger, but nobody knows where the private key is.
Right.
So to guess the private key is computationally unfeasible.
So it's not totally like burying gold, because I could accidentally find that, but I couldn't accidentally find that you're Bitcoin.
Yeah, you could accidentally find the gold by digging, and you could accidentally guess the 512 zeros and ones that correspond to the key. Yeah.
But the upshot is if you die, then at some level Bitcoin worth goes up slightly.
A lot of
Because you're taking
Bitcoiners
some of
don't.
the Bitcoins out.
Yeah, a lot of Bitcoin people in the Bitcoin community don't have an inheritance scheme set up because they just say, if I'm dead, I'm dead, and all the other Bitcoiners, the effective supply of Bitcoin
it's gone
decreases, the value goes up. Everybody gets yeah.
I have a question or comment about gold, because a lot of the assumption about gold is that it's a finite supply of gold, and that is theoretically correct, but the practical reality is that the amount of mined gold is actually a very small fraction of all the gold in existence on the Earth, let alone the universe. And we actually have had a historical inflation rate in gold. Would you like to comment on that at all?
Yeah, I mean that's a good argument for why Bitcoin is better, I guess, than gold. I mean, I was like Gary when people would talk about going back to the gold reserve. I kind of roll my eyes and groan because it's so hard to verify the purity of gold, to snip off $5 worth of this to pay for a coffee. You got to store it. I don't know. I think it served a great purpose, but paper money, despite all its flaws, is far superior to gold in terms of a medium of exchange. In terms of
But it's not superior as a means of wealth preservation. Because
No,
basically
I would
in
agree with
gold, the inflation rate is essentially set, it's out of control of an individual,
yeah.
where with paper money you have individuals or groups of individuals who can print at will. I mean, you've got the Zimbabwean dollar, for example.
Yeah. No, I mean Bitcoin is way better than gold. I didn't even touch on a few aspects. So I touched on multi-signature. You can program gold. You can program theoretically computers. Sorry, you can program Bitcoin. You can program computers to spend Bitcoin and do chores for each other in the future. This is sci-fi, but I mean I don't see any reason why this isn't coming eventually down the road, where people own fleets of drones that will provide services for people in exchange for Bitcoin that will all be filtered into the owner of these robots or computers. You can't do that with gold.
Why?
I guess you
No,
could
you
do it with
can.
gold.
You can.
But now the payload, they have to
No,
cut
you
the
need-
payload of gold payments too then, so you're talking about weight of a drone holding, 20 gold coins. Now to add,
Well, yeah, well,
so it's the digital
sort of,
piece to make move
there
money.
is a system that, I'm not convinced that that's the difference between gold and Bitcoin. I think a significant difference is that with the current, I don't think anyone's going to be going back to a gold standard, but the difference is that there are actual individuals with vested interests in charge of the worth of, let's say, the US dollar.
Yeah.
And right now it's China. So that sort of manipulation of value
Yeah.
that exists or will exist at some point in the future at a significantly lower level with something like Bitcoin, because there's no specific vested interest at this point. There will in the future be, of course.
Yeah.
If I owe you 10,000 bitcoins and each one is worth $500,000, then it's in my interest to do something with the rate of bitcoins, right?
Sure. And if you don't have any Bitcoin right now, but you have $10,000 worth of dollars, then you don't have really know, if you want to pay me in Bitcoin, you have to buy Bitcoin to get them, to have to exchange.
Yeah.
I mean, my point is that Bitcoin is, well, it's programmable. I can't see you paying a robot like a dust of gold. Like if you want to pay it 50 cents worth of gold to deliver a coffee
Yeah,
or to
but
get out of your lane if you're
Right now, I
driving.
give the robot a Visa number.
Right.
That-
Which is central database money.
Yeah, right. It's exactly the same, ultimately, in my relationship to the robot.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't think the differences exist in the method
Yeah.
of passing on value.
Yeah. Except it's going through a centralized
Yes, it
third
is,
party,
for
so it
sure.
can be censored.
Yes.
I
Which is also manipulative.
I would have to disagree with that, because rather than thinking of a robot, think of a homeless person who want to give transfer wealth. Now, virtually every centralized source of system, that homeless person will not take Visa, will not take debit, will take gold, because it's an in-person transaction, and will take Bitcoin, or will take any of the other altcoins. But you cannot transfer wealth to that person through these centralized database systems. You can give them a cash dollar bill, or coin, or dollar coin, but you cannot give them a Visa number. You cannot give them an electronic transfer. So what digital currency has done is it's allowed that cash bearer transfer to occur in a digital form, so you can do that over the internet. I can give a homeless person a $10 bill. I can give a homeless person a Bitcoin. I can give a homeless person some gold.
So how are you giving the homeless person a Bitcoin?
Well, the homeless person has this was actually done in Texas. They actually had homeless people that were receiving Bitcoin. All they need is a small computer that someone's donated, and then they connect. I just transfer to their address. They can put a Q code, just like it was shown here, and when they're begging, they can put a little Q code over their address, and I can scan my phone on it and transfer Bitcoin to that homeless person. I cannot do that with Visa. I cannot do that with debit, and I cannot do that with any of these electronic methods. So I think the robot analogy is not as accurate, because the robot is controlled by a big corporation who then can take the Visa number. In the case of the homeless person, that option isn't there. So that's the fundamental distinction. Now, why it's different?
I have a question.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. No one in front.
Yeah.
Why,
Who's the question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If that's okay, okay.
well, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so the question I have is, I don't, as I said earlier, I don't know what I don't know. Is it possible, maybe naive question, is it possible for the people that own Bitcoin to create, now you have a finite amount of Bitcoins, let's say 25 million. Is it possible for them to create and increase the value of the reverse, the finite reverse of digital cash and increase their overall money?
So, increase the
Help me.
cap.
Increase the cap, but not the 25 million way, but the other way, so that I'm trying to understand, how can somebody rip this off? How can somebody come in and make more when there's no possibility to make more?
Well,
or
okay,
how
so
can,
this is a great
what are the
question.
risks? Like,
This is a great
I
question.
don't know.
And there's
I
there's
see
technical
people getting
answers to
ripped
this.
off, so I want to know that won't happen to me.
Okay, so the people who got ripped off trusted somebody else with their Bitcoin.
Okay,
They sent dollars or euros to Mt. Gox in Japan,
okay,
and maybe they traded half of them for Bitcoin one day.
On a centralized account, which is ML.gox, not
Okay.
theirs.
And-
okay,
and-
so they
and
trusted
maybe-
someone else.
Maybe they were day trading. They had
Okay.
it there but then Mt. Gox, either through neglect
Yeah.
or theft or stupidity, they lost all the Bitcoin there. So this person didn't, this person didn't have Bitcoin and got taken. They were
Okay.
taken from them. Mt. Gox had Bitcoin that were taken from
Was
them.
that, okay,
So
and-
essentially if you held an account at McGox
Yes.
before it got hacked, or during it got hacked,
yeah,
your Bitcoin or money was at their exchange, just like trusting a bank. If something happened at the bank, you know.
And there's no insurance on that,
there's
obviously.
no insurance.
Okay,
I would say
there was no
that-
refund on that either, was there? Okay, and so now are there safeguards to make sure that doesn't happen?
No, if you want to buy through a centralized exchange, I mean, I would recommend buying in person to person with cash. Give
Okay,
them the cash, get the Bitcoin if you can, or with
Yeah.
a machine like that.
okay.
If you want
Okay.
to go on an exchange and do a large amount,
Yeah, yeah,
put your dollars there, buy the Bitcoin, get the Bitcoin off, and to minimize your risk, your exposure.
I see. Yeah, that's important to know, okay.
Yeah, if I may say, Mt. Gox is doing exactly the same thing with Bitcoin as those banks were doing with the receipts. They were taking deposits in Bitcoin, and then they were issuing more IOUs against the Bitcoin than the Bitcoin that they held.
Okay.
So that's essentially what happened there.
So it's better just to have our own wallets, essentially.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you're teaching people is how to manage their own wallets so we don't get taken by people who are sharks and want your money.
Yes.
Okay, I took me just that long.
Looks like lunch is ready, is it, Andrew?
Thank you very much, by the way. Let's give him a hand, a big one.